When you talk about your DEI journey, you explain that, it's about 3 years in. And with that, you've had a lot of accomplishments, even though it hasn't been a long time. What kinds of things are you most proud of in your DEI journey?
I hesitate to say proud of because one of the things I've learned as CEO is I don't like to stay complacent, right? So if I sit back and say, oh, I'm proud of this and proud of that, I stop on the journey, right? But I'll talk about some stepping stones that I feel of making progress that way. From a personal standpoint, I've gone from, hey, this is something we should do, to this is the right thing to do, to I really want to do this. And DEI, unlike, say, a revenue growth or something like that, DEI is not just in the head, it's in the heart too. And so I've gone to that stage where now I feel it is in my heart that this is something I want to do beyond just, hey, it's the right thing to do for our company, for our people. It's something that I'm very passionate about. And that's what I feel is good. That's what I think will continue to motivate me to be on the journey. From a professional standpoint, I think you have to measure where you're at professionally with commitment. And I think you and I have talked about this. Frankly, in a business, commitment is measured by dollars. Are you putting your money where your mouth is when you say that? And then, of course, the lady sitting next to me here, hiring her as our corporate director of diversity, equity, inclusion was a major commitment for the company. Candice is the first African American in management in the company's history, which great, we're taking a step, but we're 75 years old and we're just now taking that step. That's challenging. When they see Candice, when they see the investment we're making into this, that really shows people, yes, you are committed to doing this.
Not only did you hire me, but you gave me the resources to do a good job. Because it's one thing to, bring me here and say, here's all the things we want, but not support me in the form of resources and then support from you to get the work done. So that means a lot too, as far as a personal commitment, is putting the money behind the action that you want to see.
Before I committed to bringing this position into the company, I researched the position and I found that nationally, it's one of the highest turnover positions in any company for two reasons. One, people get picked off to go to other companies, but the other is they come into a situation where the CEO is all pumped up, they're saying we're ready to do this, and then they don't give them the empowerment or the resources to do their job. So that was one thing that I researched, and I said she's got to be empowered and she's got to have resources or she will not be successful.
And I appreciate that. I really do.
So Candice, many times people talk about DEI being a journey. I would love to hear from you about your experience with this and how you hope to get SSOE to continue to move forward on their journey.
So you're right, it is a journey. And I also think there's never a point, even 20 years down the line, that you'll get to the point and say, we're there. I think that as the industry changes, as new employees come in, their needs are going to be different, the company's needs are going to be different, and so we also need to be agile in how we think about DEI. What I'm very proud of so far is, like you said before, the empowerment that I've been given to develop a strategy that is all encompassing, and it's not just focused on race or gender, but it's really looking at our company as a whole and looking at each person in terms of what kinds of things they bring as it relates to diversity. So I've been really excited about buy-in. It was when I first got there, I was really nervous because I was, we did all the roundtables. We talked to over almost 200 employees in our company just to hear firsthand on what their thoughts were, how they were feeling about diversity, what kind of concerns they may have had about the new direction. And it let me know right away there were some people that definitely had some concerns. But what I loved about that was that some of the people who had concerns would contact me and say, hey, I really want to understand the direction that we're going. And to me, that was them saying, hey, I want to buy in. But right now, the things that I've experienced, the experiences that I've had, the things that I know, I'm not there yet. Looking at our employee resource groups as a way for employees to have a safe space for each other to share, common experiences and so forth, but also say, we don't want to just keep this information within our own silo. We want to take our experiences and help SSOE be better. So, what kinds of things can we take on as challenges and say we'd like to help the company do better in these areas? So, having an African American ERG, a women's ERG, and an LGBTQ ERG is really exciting for me, and I'm very proud of that.
So while we never actually complete the journey, as you said, how do you look at yourself and say, we really are a leader? We don't feel like that. We feel like we're just starting, but how do you look back and say, you know what, we really are leading now?
I think you become a leader when it's not an initiative, when it's 100% baked into the operations of the company, that every aspect of our company is considering how everyone in the company is impacted. So not necessarily checking boxes. We have 40%, our the percentage of our company looks like the percentage of people in the world, as it relates to, gender, ethnicity, things like that. But when we're not even thinking about that, it's just innate. Everything that we do is with consideration of everyone in our company.
Well, then we definitely have work to do. But using that metric, we're not a leader yet, but it's good. It's a good aspirational place for us to go. Thank you.
So I think a few ways that we're already, putting DEI as something that's true and a part of our DNA at SSOE. We've been doing a lot of things internally. We had a Q4 mandatory training in our last performance year, which was something that was new, that was focused on diversity. And we had every employee participate in learning more about allyship. We've been doing a lot of community engagement, a lot of work with our pipeline, looking at how we can access students way before they even get to college. So partnerships with elementary schools and high schools in the local area, but then also our strong commitment to University of Toledo and other universities across the country, scaling up of a scholarship program for our HBCUs, our historically Black colleges and universities across the country that have programs that are relevant to the services that we offer. People have said we've seen SSOE logo everywhere. So we see, you guys are serious about the community commitment. And sometimes it's not just about supporting an organization that directly impacts us as an employer, but it's people seeing that they're helping organizations that they haven't before, and we really see that they believe in what they're saying, that they want to support the community, and just being a visible presence is important to them.
Right. And Candice, as you talk, you're demonstrating. This is a saying I always have when I say it, people like scratch their head. Well, wait a minute, you just said that. The only way to bake it into the culture is to bake it into the culture. Everything you touch, you have to be thinking about that. But it's also, and this is where the CEO, the management, the leaders, the middle management, especially the company, has to be vocal and do things. And I'll give you an example. It literally just happened on Monday. Was in a meeting with some of our executives, and we were talking about succession planning. Going through, talking about different names and such. And I stopped the meeting and I said, guys, and I say, guys, it was not all men in the room. I said, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask this question. I said, every single name you've brought up has been a white man. You've not brought up even a single woman into this conversation. Are you going to tell me we don't have any women in this company that we should be talking about? And that changed the conversation right there. Oh yeah, and names started coming up. So it's not just the formal things, which are good. It's those behind the closed door type conversations where you've got to make people uncomfortable, right? To get it into the culture, you have to sometimes force it to say, you need to talk about this. Now, what is great is if I'm not in the room someday and that's happening without me, either someone else is saying it or it just doesn't have to be said. To your point, how do you know when you're a leader? Well, you know when you're a leader when I don't have to do that, right? Everybody in the room already thinks that way.
So, we think about a lot of different things, age, gender, everything when we talk about, race, diversity. But then there's a perspective on diversity of thought. So what is your perspective on that?
Diversifying a culture is important, but people don't like to talk about diversity because, well, it starts sounding like a quota, or I'm only interested in race or gender or something like that. it's much more comfortable to say we need diversity of thought than to say we need diversity. And so I think that's why I think diversity itself is important. It's a very important input to truly changing the conversation.
And that is the thing that I'm finding in the conversations that I'm having, is that people who are not in an underrepresented minority group don't feel that they can contribute to conversations around diversity because they themselves are not diverse. And so I think when people say diversity of thought, it gives them a way to feel included in the conversation and not excluded. And that's how come I've been trying to work really hard to let everybody know, even though you're not an underrepresented group, you still contribute to the diversity of our company, but not through your necessarily what you bring to the table physically or who you are, from a heritage standpoint and so forth. You have something to add, but you don't share the same experiences as some of our underrepresented employees.
Right. There's no reason not to feel included by hearing different perspectives.
Absolutely. One of the things that we're going to start, and I'm really excited about, is launching a podcast. And we're launching the podcast not as the leader or the, we know it all as it relates to DEI, because like we talked about, we're still very early, but we want to facilitate conversations with people who are further along, who have innovative ways that they're working on diversity, equity, and inclusion in their organization. So it may be AEC organizations, but it may be higher ed, it may be, for-profit, nonprofit companies, but just different people who are leaders in the DEI industry to help share their story with us, and then allow us to maybe share some of what we're doing as well with them. But we just want it to be really creative, fun, authentic conversations about people trying to make a change as it relates to DEI.
And Candice, you brought up other industries, and I think for SSOE, being in our AEC industry, it's important for us because our industry as a whole, compared to other industries, is behind in the DEI space. I mean, the engineering architecture world has traditionally not been very diverse. And so our goal at SSOE, and my goal as a leader in the industry, is not just about positioning SSOE as a leader, but how do we do that literally to drive the industry as well? Because I think the whole industry will benefit from that, and then all the companies in that industry will also benefit from that. So I think it's really important that DEI is not just within your walls. It affects society as a whole. So if we can help drive the industry as a leader in industry, that's going to help everybody.